EIT Raw Materials Awareness Day. So, if you are online, we are here with a slight delay, but we are just about to start. And for those who were not here yesterday, I'm just going to have a sum up of what was going on yesterday. And by the way, the link is being shared with you right now regarding yesterday's event. So you can also check afterward the event of yesterday. So what went on yesterday? Yesterday we had the possibility to know what EIT Raw Materials is about, what they are doing, what is their vision, and what is their mission not only for Portugal but for Europe, and how they plan to use this integrated network to support this industry of the raw materials in Portugal. With that being said, we also counted with the presence of several stakeholders who supported us on an important debate, a discussion that we need and we must have now in order to implement for next year and next years, the following years, a strong strategy for us to push innovation within this sector. And for that, we counted with governmental institutions, private institutions, may it be SMEs, startups, corporates, but also counting with investors. So yesterday we had an important session for one of the key stakeholders of innovation, the universities and research centers, and how they can collaborate with EIT Raw Materials, what are the opportunities that lie for them in this area. With that being said, we also had a session for the startups, and we had use cases from both sides, universities and from the startup world, that were supported by EIT Raw Material. Once more, if you did not make it yesterday, don't worry, the link of yesterday's event will be shared with everyone, as well as the link of today. This is being live streamed, but you can obviously check the event again. It is recorded on YouTube and it will last there. We will try to have by minute description in the commentary from BGI, so you can check exactly what is the session at what time that makes more sense for you to support you, guiding you through the session. So it was very interesting because yesterday we ended the day with a debate, an important debate with key stakeholders from the ecosystem. We also counted with the host of the venue we are today and yesterday as well, which is AIP, the Association of Industry in Portugal. And we also counted with entities from the government such as PERIN and ANI and also BGI to provide here some key insights. And that's where we closed yesterday, with those key insights of some of the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead in this sector for Portugal. With that being said, and with no further ado, now that I did a small recap of what was yesterday, I'll invite you to check it. I'll invite you to email BGI if you have any questions. And I will also invite you, do not forget, we had a session yesterday about the matchmaking platform. Please make sure you have it, you have received it on your email, so you are more than able to schedule meetings. If for some reason you are not able for the meetings that are going to be today at 11, please also email BGI. We can provide you with support in contacting the EIT Raw Material team and any of the other guests. With that being said, today the day is going to shift and our focus are going to be the investors and the corporates. And EIT Raw Material has a plan to support those on fostering the innovation in Portugal. So, the first session we are going to have is actually for investors, and how can the business development and what are the strategies that EIT Raw Material might involve in Portugal to support these investors. And for that, I'm going to call the Business Development and Strategy Manager of EIT Raw Materials, Wafa Kohan.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining this session more dedicated to the European Raw Material Alliance for Investors. Well, I'm really happy to introduce this strategical activity at EIT RawMaterials. And as agenda, I would suggest to start by reminding to who was not with us yesterday the role of EIT RawMaterials as European organization that do risk innovation in the raw material sectors. And then I will focus on the European Raw Material Alliance global context, process, and also investment pools we have with European organization, private and public investors. And then I will finish the presentation with the open question and some clues to answer this question. Why should you invest on EIT RawMaterials and especially on the European Raw Material Alliance projects? So before introducing Irma, I would like just to remind the role of EIT RawMaterials as a European organization that do risk innovation. And in this slide, you can see how we support and how we de-risk innovation since the idea until the industrialization by combining our instruments that are kind of tailor-made funds and services to de-risk innovation. So first of all, I would like just to focus on those instruments one by one. The first one is the EIT Jumpstarter program that focuses on the earlier stage ideas and startups, and especially idea holders. Then the second one, the ECP program that I introduced yesterday for the startup at earlier stage. The booster program for the startup that have technology at almost CRL 5 level and CRL 5 level as well. The ECME call that is really complementary to the booster and the ECP program, and that focus on the integrating and incorporating new technology in the product that exists already in the market by adding this technology. And last but not the least, European Raw Material Alliance, one of our new instruments to support the industrialization in the European ecosystem. So now I would like to focus on ERMA a few minutes. So as you may know, European Raw Material Alliance has been launched last year on September 2020. So European Raw Material Alliance is supported by the Commissioner Breton and the Vice President Vescovic. And EIT RawMaterials, as the European organization, we have a mandate to manage the European Raw Material Alliance. So ERMA is supported by more than 60 members of the European Parliament. And we have up to now more than 500 partners that endorse the European Raw Material Alliance and the projects. And based on the first investment process, we have received more than 120 investment cases that are evaluated through our funnel process up to now, with the average budget of 9.4 billion. Just to position ERMA regarding EIT RawMaterials, as I said yesterday, the role of the EIT RawMaterials is really to focus on securing stable and sustainable supply from material for the European ecosystem. So the role of ERMA is really complementary to EIT RawMaterials by accelerating this process and by emphasizing this vision. And for this, we have 4 main goals. I will focus on the most important one. The first one is by supporting the European raw material industry capability to extract, design, manufacture, and produce new material and the new products in the raw material sector. And the second goal, I would say, to promote innovation and especially strategic investment and industrial production in the raw material sector. This slide is showing, I would say, a mix of challenges and opportunities at the same time. If you have a look to this table, you can see the list of the critical and strategic raw material kind of pain points in terms of supply in Europe. And in the figure you have in the left, you have all the domain and area that have these pain points for the CRM and the strategic raw materials. For instance, renewable energy, transportation, aerospace, defense, and etc. So, and it's really opportunity for the potential investor because the market potential is there. We can see that there are pain points that need to be covered. And thanks to European raw material investment platform and approach, we can tackle this challenge by investing on this project and accelerating the penetration into the market. Therefore, since the creation of the European Raw Material Alliance, we have set up two clusters, I would say strategical clusters. The first one focus on raw material elements permanent, and the second one focus on the storage and conversion of energy. So for each cluster, we have set up task force groups. So if you are interested in joining task force, please feel free to contact us. We can make you in contact with the coordinator of task force, because during this workshop, we discuss concretely the challenges, the opportunities, and how we can set up investment approach and strategical project to tackle these challenges. Regarding the first cluster, which is related to rare earth elements and permanents, the European Commission with the EIT RawMaterials has launched the European Call for Action to tackle the challenges in the framework of these clusters. You can find more details regarding this call through the social network. Now I would like to focus on the European Raw Material Alliance process, which is really, I would say, investment consultancy, open consultancy process that happen in 3 key phases. First of all, it's about sourcing. And when it's come to sourcing, it's about trustful relationship with the partners, the corporates, to really identify their challenges, the business cases, and how we can support them to make those business cases fit in the requirements of the potential investor. Then we evaluate those business cases through two steps, I would say. The first one is internal one with our technical expert and business experts. And then we assess those business cases with external evaluator to have external overview about the relevance of the business cases and how we could support the corporates in their journey. The second phase of the process is about management. And when it's come to management, first of all, the operational side regarding the achievement of these business cases, and then from the financial side to make sure regarding the profitability of those cases and also the reimbursement scenario to the private and public investors. And of course, the last phase focus on the execution of the projects and the achievement of the KPIs. Few words regarding the ERMA process up to now. We received about 115 business cases in Europe. Almost 90 business cases have passed stage 1, and 50 cases have passed stage 2. So for those one, we are discussing the investor requirements and how we could make those investment cases fitting the requirements of the investor. So as you can see, it's a continuous process. It's a workflow process. It's not about call, as you have seen yesterday for the CAVA call, for instance, or the business creation activities. And it's really about a matchmaking between the potential investors and corporates and the companies. So what is really the business model of European Raw Material Alliance? I think when it comes to the business model, it's important to have in mind the value proposition of the alliance and to position our offer comparing to the EIT RawMaterials activities. First of all, it's about securing access to critical raw material by fostering access to innovation. Then it's about supporting high-level business cases. And also it's about reducing the risk, the business risk for the investee, and also the investment risk for the investor, and the matchmake between both. And of course, about de-risking and mitigating finance and securing economies of scale. For the from the value delivery side, as I said, it's a workflow process. We have a continuous pre-selection funnel process. The idea is really to combine a private and a public fund. We have set up cluster to really group our thematic, and we really would like to combine external investment in order to de-risk and to increase the likelihood of the investment of the business cases that have really potential in the European ecosystem. And from the value equation side, of course, we are talking about business cases, so we are going to focus on the high return on investment aspects. And of course, we will take into account the financial side by taking into account the NPV, the IRR analysis, and also the maximization of the CRM production capacities in Europe. So what about the shame, the global shames of the investors that we can offer to ERMA? So as you can see, first of all, is about the European Commission organization that support the R&D and the innovation stage, like EIC, Innovation Fund, etc. And then the European Commission program that combine loans and grant, like for instance, EPCI program, it is a global program support research and developments, or national research and innovation funds. And of course, the most important part would be also the investment agency, private and the public ones, like for instance, the European Bank, EIB, EBRD, or other private investor like private bank, for instance. So as you can see, the ERMA unique value is really to de-risk projects so that it become investable and bankable. And for that, we are going to focus on, of course, the European network. And thanks to our consultation process, we are going to involve the partners and the corporates to develop task force and the action plan, continuous action plan for ERMA. And also by developing our investment pools to really have more and more potential investors to fund and finance those business cases, potential business cases. Well, to summarize, why should you invest in EIT RawMaterial project, and especially ERMA business cases? First of all, as you have seen, we have very, very high demands in terms of CRM. So we have a very high challenge and also opportunities with a high market potential. European Raw Material Alliance is completely aligned with the European Commission policies and regulation, and we are endorsed by the European Commission. That is important as the risking criteria, as we would say. And of course, it's about combining public and private finance, which reduce the risk in terms of investment. And of course, EIT RawMaterial Alliance, as a player in this area, and by having a continuous and trustful relationship and open discussion with the private investor, we are going to be part of the due diligence process, which will make the due diligence process, I would say, not easier, but the time of the due diligence will be shorter thanks to this trustful relationship with the private investor. So to summarize, thanks to this combination of investor pools, ERMA will co-invest together with the investor to de-risk business cases, corporate projects that it become investable and bankable and achievable in short time to make impact in the European ecosystem. Now I would like to give you an example of business cases we are supporting through ERMA process. So as you know, the business cases are confidential. We are not going to share all the details, but I will give you just the outline of the business case with the pillars and the criteria we take into account in our assessment process. First of all, the project is about lithium, recycling of lithium, extraction from geothermal resources. Just to give you an idea about the budget we are talking about, the amount is about 600 million that cover CapEx, investment, OpEx. And when we assess the business case and especially the budget required by the project, we of course take into account the business plan of the project, the company as well, and some necessary financial figures like the IRR, NPV, and of course the return on investment. So this project has passed the stage 1 by presenting the one-pager and of course a business plan. And thanks to this internal evaluation, they were selected to pitch the business case in the front of external evaluator that come from private and the public organization. And then after this stage, the business case applicants, so the management of the company, we are coaching them to adjust the business case and then to present it to the potential investor. So, few words regarding the investment process for this case. First of all, it's about due diligence process. Then it's about open discussion with the potential investors. And as I said, the adjustment of the business case to make it more relevant for the private and the public investors. And I would like just to emphasize one important pillar here, information, is that this process lasts 3 months. So if we have looked to the budget, we are talking about 6 million euros, and the assessment of the project lasts 3 months. So you can see the added value of ERMA. It's not only about making the time of the assessment shorter, it's also about evaluating and as I said in the value proposition slide, the risking and so on. But you can see that concretely, thanks to our expertise, we can make the evaluation period shorter and accelerate the presentation of the business case to the potential investors. So with this slide, I finish my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm happy to answer your question. Thank you.
I'll now maybe open for Q&A.
Obrigado. Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
I just have a couple of quick questions. It regards typically the promoters of these kind of value chains for recycling critical raw materials. Is it a consortium of companies? How is, in that case, how is the consortium structured?
Yeah.
Or could it be municipalities or public players that are looking at also some aspects within their territory? Maybe you could comment a bit on the organization of the either companies, public or consortia.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Very interesting question. So European Raw Material Alliance, it's an alliance. It's not independent organization of EIT RawMaterials. So the European Commission gave the mandate to the European Raw Material Alliance to manage the business cases portfolio. And thanks to our expertise as ERMA team in terms of technical aspect and also business side and matchmaking side, we play kind of intermediate role, but not only between the applicant, the corporates, and the potential investor. And our added value, as I said, it's about making this time to investment shorter by bringing services, by bringing expertise, and by bringing network.
So the applicant is always a corporate? The applicant of the...
It could be ventures as well. Thank you for raising this. Not only corporate, it could be ventures. So it depends. We have, it depends on the profile of the investor. There are some investors that are interested in the big, high, super big business case. So for that would be mainly corporates. And there are some investors that are happy with the medium business case, and that could come, for instance, from the ventures.
Could it be a consortia? The applicant could be a consortia of groups of companies or that represent a sector, for instance?
It could be possible. Would you like to maybe?
Thank you. Thank you. Effectively, so what we have seen of the investment cases that we have seen up to now, the 100 invest cases, it's mainly corporates that need to make these huge investments to increase their capacities. Because we speak about increasing the capacities of the European industry when we speak about the raw materials and the challenge in front of us. What we have seen is, of course, it could be sometimes joint ventures. It could be effectively spin-offs. But you know, we have to build the financial case that is also, we use different sources of financing for building this, the companies themselves as well, of course. But we also have seen effectively association, and I know one in the Netherlands at least, working around windmills. That is an association of different industrialists that wants to invest together in building up capacities in that sector. And so for those ones, effectively, we are looking into the different sourcing of financing possibilities in the Netherlands. I just give this as an example, at the European level, with the investment banks, with other ones, and with the private ones that would like to invest. First of all, the industrialists themselves, but also other ones. So we can set up these things. I think ERMA is really there, it's open. You come with a case, and we try to see with you what's the best thing to do. What we also have seen sometimes with ERMA is that actually the business case is not mature enough. So it could be, if you come, because of course we could support smaller companies as well, that's not the problem, but you need to have a seriously mature case if you want to go in front of investors. So what we offer also via ERMA is to say, okay, let's prepare the case together, let's see what is the challenge, let's see first an additional information that is needed effectively to make the case before going effectively to an investor. So 3 months to an investor, if your case is ready and mature, yes. But mainly there is a lot of preparation to be done before this.
Thank you. Just a final question. On the 47 cases that you described that went through stage 2, what kind of materials, raw materials are we talking about? Just as a typical, is it more metal? Is it more other sources of?
I will say there are 2 different kind of cases. First of all, the mining. Junior mining companies, where the capex is enormous, the investment is enormous before starting anything. So those ones. Investing in Europe, investing outside Europe, that's different cases. So we see there large mining companies, but also junior mining companies coming there and trying to effectively find the means. On the other side, it's all what we see now a lot in the conversion or the additional business added to a traditional industry, like I would say the ones processing raw materials, now moving to effectively try to process recycling of materials as well, and investing in this new business for them. So that's mainly what we see today. I would say, well, the critical materials are of course top. We see what is needed today with the gigafactories developing in Europe, with the electric engines, with all this sector is completely changing. So there is a lot of investment needed there from very large groups, up to effectively really small ones.
Do you see also a kind of applicants from rare earth materials being formed in these by these consortia?
Yes. We do, and this is one of the, I would say, weaknesses in Europe for the moment. The rare earth industry disappeared. It's mainly in Asian countries, well-known Asian countries, that all these things is happening. And effectively, we still have a few of these industrialists, but the investment needs to be there, and we see it coming back, yes. Effectively.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the presentation. I think, and I apologize if I missed this information, but it wasn't quite clear what the maturity of the projects that you were looking for.
What is, sir? I didn't.
Okay. I was asking for the maturity of the projects that you are looking for. It wasn't quite clear for me what exactly are you trying to address, if in terms of technological maturity, if you're looking at more development of prototypes and stuff like that, or if we're looking into more developed.
Thank you for the question. So for European Raw Material Alliance, we focus on the industrialization projects. So at least I would say TRL 6, 7. So it's more dedicated to projects that have already proof of concept that were validated in representative environments, even real environments. So it's more about validating the feasibility and building the plants and the industrialization of the concept.
Okay, excellent. And what are the type of funding and financing rates?
What are the
funding? The type of funding that is provided in terms of
the kind of funding?
Yes.
Well, thank you for the question. So the funding can come from public bank, for instance, like EIB or EBRD, we are discussing with, and it could come also from private bank, for instance, in France, we have discussion with the BNP Paribas, for example, so the similar in Portugal or in Germany. So it's really about developing partnership with the private bank as well to combine them with the private fund.
Okay, so it's essentially for loans, is that
Yeah,
it?
the instrument, the financial instrument is mainly loan.
Okay.
Yeah, or loan with guarantee, for instance.
Okay, and the application process, how does it work?
What else? Sorry?
The application, how does one apply to this process?
Well, it depends on the investors, as we have a mandate to manage those business cases, so we need to assist them before. and then we will present those business cases to the investor through our channels, and you are, the applicants are part of these channels through this process.
Okay.
As a company, if you are on the investee side and the investor side?
Yeah, it depends on the
So depending if you are an investor or looking for investments. Looking for investments, we have the ERMA, I suppose there is an address of the ERMA website. So you can actually join this alliance. It's a European Union alliance, that's the address there. And that's very simple because there you can request, I need to make an investment. It's a one-pager just to explain what you would like to do, how it works, and then we get in contact with you and we prepare a pitch. So the principle is first, let's see what kind of maturity it has, and then you will have to pitch in front of a series of experts, which are investors, which are high industrial people that are looking into the case and say, well, yes, we think it's important to support in the frame of the European Raw Materials Alliance. So we speak really about this increase of capacity, or European capacities to support the raw material sector and the energy transition that is happening.
Okay, just one more question. You mentioned something like 40 projects that have been supported already. Is that right?
So 40 projects have gone through this process. With these 40 projects, we are now effectively preparing what we call phase 3. So the files, the discussions to see what investor we are going to discussing with the investors and so on. So that is now effectively happening on about 40 cases. Some will not continue, some will go further on, effectively.
And those projects are public? Do we have access?
No, it's completely confidential.
Okay, so we don't even know locations, for example?
No.
Or beneficiaries? Okay.
We cannot give any information. This is really industrial projects.
Okay.
It's all under non-disclosure information.
Okay.
The investments.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you for the question.
So the question regards to some trends of the last weeks and the news of the last week regards to what is raw material or considered critical raw materials. I know phosphorus is. It's part of the reason why I'm here. But we saw a price of nitrogen, of natural gas spiking, and we are, as Europeans, a bit dependent on the pipelines that support our nitrogen production for agriculture. So I was thinking, if given these scares we've been having lately, if nitrogen is also going to be considered a critical raw material because it has a critical impact on production of food in the European Union. Anything on that?
If we speak about nitrogen, this is about energy. So we work mainly on the material side of the raw materials, I would say. So it's more on the material side than on the energy side. So we are not too much active in effectively, I would say, unless it is technologies to be developed around production or manufacturing or whatever of hydrogen equipments and so on. But we do not work in the sector of energy. So oil, I would say, and nitrogen, we are not active in this sector.
But the question wasn't regarding energy. It was regarding nitrogen to be used on the soil as fertilizer. So it's not energy I was worried about. It was to do with food security in the European Union. We have excess supply of food because we have a lot of fertilizer put on the soil. If natural gas prices go up, also nitrogen will go up.
Yeah.
It's made from natural gas, so it was not, just to clarify, it was not energy related.
Well, we, EIT, so EIT is divided in different KICs and knowledge innovation communities. Okay. We are the community on the raw materials, metals, minerals mainly. There is one on food, EIT Food, I think it's called, which is the one to address these kind of things. Okay. So I cannot answer, I'm sorry, this is really not in our domain.
Hello. I'm from a venture capital company, so I was trying to understand if from the side of the investors or the potential investors, there are also private equities or venture capitals that could invest in startups that are developing or new raw materials or new process of produce and transform those raw materials. We have invested in two companies, Portuguese companies that are working, two different raw materials. One is a new process that is in the pre-industrial phase of produce graphene. And it has the big challenge of the industrialization. It's really a big challenge. And the other one is producing a new fluid, nano-Newtonian, so it's really a new raw material. So, but they are in the early stage. I don't think, at least for the second one, the loans it's a solution because they don't have revenues. They are just, working on the product and on the market. So could be this opportunity for those kind of companies, or they really need to be more mature? Although it's difficult in graphene area to be more mature at this moment without a huge investment. So it's something that should be addressed.
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for raising this question, because we didn't develop further the equity side in this presentation. So to answer your question, for sure, when it's come to equity as instruments, there are kind of due diligence complementary process to assess the profitability of the startup and the potential in the market, which could be complementary to loans. I fully agree with you when it's come to investing in startup, there is more risk for investors, so it's not easy to have access to loans directly, because the banks and the investor need more guarantees on this, and it's not easy when we are startups to guarantee to have guarantee for loans. So equity is one of the instruments, and there are, as I said, a complementary process to assess the startups and to give the opportunity to investor to participate to the capital, the round table of the startup, and then to be investor for sure, and also maybe in the executive board, to have a seat in the board, and to have kind of decision player in the future of the startup. So for sure, yes. Thank you very much.
All right, so this was good for you to also understand these lines and what the project is about. However, we think that it's also important to give you business cases and actually how testimonials of how these financial instruments are being used. So for that, I'm going to call the director of the Innovation Hub. Michelle has been answering some of your questions already, so you already know. But Michelle, thank you so much for joining us and for this part of the presentation.
Thank you. Thank you. So what I will do is to, we had 2 days, very interesting days of presenting what are the different possibilities existing with EIT RawMaterials. And what I wanted to present here mainly is effectively, well, how do we work? What is effectively the different activities and services we can provide, which is not only effectively innovation funding that we have seen a lot yesterday for startups, for other projects, but also other kind of activities. I think I always start with this one because that's the challenge of the day. Huh? We know that we are effectively now entering in the challenge of the energy transition from oil to materials. This is a fact. This is happening now and will not happen tomorrow. So that is why we all in this industry have to work effectively on this so that Europe can also be a big actor in these ones. It is effectively challenging, that is for sure. It is effectively enormous challenge when we speak about increasing, and we see the increasing demand of critical materials, when we see the volatility of the prices on those materials, when we see the decreasing quality of the resources, because the resources is limited on Earth, and so the quality of these resources, of course, is diminishing. But it gives a lot of opportunities for this industry in the same time, by finding substitutions solution, by effectively go to the recycling of those materials, by effectively also looking into other areas to mine, and as we say also, and it was said yesterday, maybe come back in a green mining, as we say in Europe, urban mining when we speak about recycling, and then we have other challenging environments that can come. I think your EIT RawMaterials mainly, and that is probably the biggest asset of organization, is the community which is inside EIT RawMaterials. It's all the partners that are existing in this organization that give the advantage, and as it was said also yesterday, it's when you collaborate, when we work together, we can go further, maybe not faster, but for sure further. And that is the enormous asset that is existing in our organization. We are everywhere in Europe. We do have, myself and my colleagues here, we are located in different areas. If I take Wafashi is in the north of France, Fondai is in the east of France, I am in Belgium, and we have people everywhere so that we can be in close contact effectively with the partners that we are working with. It's more than 300 partners in our organizations. It's more than 500 partners when we speak about ERMA, which is this famous large investment ones. What kind of partners do we have in our organization? It is just examples of the partners we have. So you can see that we have the largest, I would say, very large companies in the area. But we also have, of course, startups which are not all on this slide. It would be impossible to show them all. But you see that all these partners that are active in our network. It is not only about industry, because we know that this is effectively one of the challenges, is the continuous innovation development that needs to be done to keep the competitivity of the European industry in the sector. So we also, and as was presented yesterday, support effectively, grant also innovation projects, and of course innovation project means technologies, and we are effectively having in our organization also the, I would say, major research and technology organizations that are active in this sector. EIT RawMaterials is always a triangle. We always repeat, it's innovation, it is research, but it is also education. And we should never forget this part. We need the talents coming from this, so we are working a lot with the largest universities as well. Two different domains for universities to be part of our organization. On one side is, of course, I would say the education side that they are performing by effectively organizing master PhDs and so on. But on the other one is the labs that are existing in the universities to develop innovation projects with the industry. So there are two different roles that can be played for this. As a summary, so you see that what we do cover is education, research, innovation, and that is important, but also entrepreneurship, and that is what also was presented yesterday about these different things. EIT RawMaterials was set up, if I remember well, in 2015 or something like that, so it is already a few years. And we see that it hooked a lot of other wagons into the organization, like the higher education initiative that is effectively developing more entrepreneurship inside education organizations, like the EIA, which is the new European Innovation Area, and ERMA, we just had this discussion. I will not go again into the strategic objectives, but we know. We speak about securing the raw material supply. We speak about designing solutions. We speak about closing material loops. So all this is what we can cover in the EIT RawMaterials in general. And it covers, of course, all the different steps in the industrial process, from exploration to circular economy. Circular economy is one of these development that is really becoming something important. what is EIT RawMaterials doing? We offer actually to our partners different services, and that's what I wanted to go. We have, of course, everything about matchmaking, meeting people, meeting other organizations, meeting competitors, meeting partners in different fields. We have our programs, which are the programs that we are financing for different actors, like the upscaling program for industrial research, like the boosters, so for the startups, or accelerator. This is the really starting of a startup, I would say, class. And then I spoke also about the education side. So de-risking is effectively what we offer, and that is probably the major also value we have, because we know very well our partners, because we have close contacts with them. A startup as a larger one, we know effectively what is the status and how the things are developing in the different organizations. So we have a good track record, I would say, from them to see what's happening today, but also what is coming up in the future. And that is, of course, a very high value for a lot of companies. So what do we offer? We offer access to partners. So we have effectively our network, and we do organize events, and we do organize matchmaking events as well. And we have one which is the Raw Materials Summit that will take place, if I remember well, in May 2022. We organize expert forums. It was presented yesterday. So these are more thematic on certain technologies. But there you see also presentation of things that are happening in other industry and what they are challenging. So that we prepare also with this what kind of calls we will organize for innovation projects, depending on what is the demand around these things. But we also organize, I would say, regional and cross-regional events where we have partners, like here, partners coming from a certain region, discussing together. We do organize at our level in Belgium by the end of this year, a partner day where all the partners from these regions, I would say, are meeting. Where we can hear a bit about the challenging they have or the information they can give, and mainly to exchange. Mainly it is to allow people to meet each other so that from there maybe they can develop a collaborative project together. We also offer, and that is also very important, what I call access to knowledge. Access to knowledge, we do have loads of projects, we do have loads of results of these projects. We have experts in our house, and business developers that knows very well the partners, but also we have advisors, scientific advisors that knows very well what's happening in different sectors of the industry. So these people are really the knowledge one, they know very well, and so we can offer this kind of things. We do also organize like open innovation challenges. I will not go into the details, it will be presented later today. We have programs for the industry, like the lifelong learning education programs, and that is effectively programs for the industry and for the employees, and then the master education programs that are existing. So we have a huge amount of data available from which we can do something, and we have people that can use this thing and that can, I would say, digest a bit the information for anybody who would need effectively to have this information. Access to finance, we discussed a lot about the access to finance on 2 different sides, or 3 different sides, I would say. The investment in innovation projects, so de-risking innovation projects with the grants that we can offer there. By boosting the startups, so these are more kind of boost effectively for the smaller companies to get the step further. And to get the step further is not always about technology. It is, and I would say mainly, about access to a market, access to the first customer, because we have a network. So we can address this network for the startups. It is also, of course, the access to the financing for the investments to be done in the industry. We just discussed about ERMA, and the specific coaching that we can offer around these things. Investments, some knows, but smaller companies have not all the capacities in-house to do the services, so we can provide this kind of services. The other major challenge that we will have and that we have in Europe is effectively the talents with the changing happening, with the development of the industry that we say. We discussed yesterday as well in the round table about the need for some of the industry to make a digitalization change, to make the process change effectively in Industry 4.0 and so on. So this is meaning that there is a need for talents, and we discussed also yesterday about this. And so we have all these universities. We do have effectively, we do program also master programs in our organization. So we can facilitate for industry an access to the talents needed with the PhD programs, with the different programs that we have. So this is something that we have in our basket. We are not too much developing for the moment. That is something that we see there is a demand, and we have, I would say, the basket of talents at the universities we support. So to summarize a bit all the different offers that we have, the networking is, of course, the number one. Matching so that you can meet partners, that you can start collaborating. This is the first step. It's probably the most complicated, but when we can find a trusted partner, then you can really develop rapidly. The finance, as we just discussed, the talents, and then the funds, and that is the start of EIT RawMaterials. We receive from the European Commission effectively funds to do support companies, to support startups, to support research and innovation. So this is a summary of what we can offer, and I suppose the slides will be distributed, and this is effectively what we can support different actors with. How do we work? We are a network. We are a community. We also have to have, so we do organize ourselves by joining the community. So joining the community is to become partner, and we have, I would say, and this is fresh new, two big categories of partners, what we call the premium partners and the network partners. So premium partners are the ones that can have an access, or full access, or partial access to all the services that we offer, plus the funding that we can offer. So the level of partnering will offer you an access to more or less financing. For the smaller companies, for startups, we don't ask them to be partner or to pay for a partnership, while we will start it probably with the network partner that we are developing. So how does it work? We have the core partners. Core partners are the ones that really can decide on our strategy. So they are part of the board, they are part of the strategy decision, and they have a full access to all the services and have a full access to all the funding that we can offer. This is not meaning that it is free, of course. You go via the calls, you go via these things, but if you can have more than one project that you can run, that's depending on the industry or that's depending on the research center. So this is the highest level of core partnering. The second one is what we call the associate partner. So the associate partner will be more, I would say, they do not design the strategy of the community, but they can be part of the discussions when we speak about the setup of a certain call, about some areas they would like to explore and so on. So that is effectively what is there. The limitation that is existing here is the access to funding that we can offer. So this partnership is always, the level of partnership is limiting the access. Example, an associate partner will have an access, cannot receive more than 300,000 euros a year for all the projects that they are covering. While core, there is no limitation. The third one is what we call partner, the project partner. So these are mainly the partners that are participating in one of the projects. They have a limited access to the funding as well. They have a limited or non-access to a say, I would say, on the strategy that we are developing or the calendar that we are setting up to implement this strategy. So for this one, there is a limitation to 100K effectively. We are developing a new category, we call this the network partners, and this is really to embed and to allow also other organizations, which are maybe smaller organizations with a better price, to access some of our services, and mainly an access to the network, an access to the partners, because that's the most valuable part. So we are setting up this new partnership community, which is the network partner, to really give an access to anybody, smaller organization, larger organization, associations, whatever, just to get inside the community and to have an access facility to the different offers that we have. I can talk about all these services for ages, but I will not. So just you can contact us. We are here with 3 people, but the team is of course bigger than this one. So do not hesitate to contact us if you have a challenge. If you would like to address something, maybe we can help and we can support you and we can start something together. Thank you very much.
Hi, thank you. Regarding I come from the industrial side. What is the plans and what is the strategy regarding biomaterials? We are looking in a world where sustainability is every day more important, and my company, in case, we are working on several projects with bioplastics and biofibers.
So we are mainly working on metals, mineral sectors. So our core activity is metals, mineral sector. So not too much on I would say, carbon-based bioproducts. So that is where we are active. But we are also active because of this in some of the materials that are used effectively in agro, like phosphates, this kind of product. So we are not really in the domain of bioproducts effectively. Metals, minerals, supply for the energy transition that is happening, yeah, mainly. So
Thank you.
thank you. I hope so. Otherwise, just contact us. Thank you. Give it back.
All right, so this was also a good explanation for some of the corporates who might also be interested in joining. But the next session actually is about open innovation and how can the corporates start collaborating with the startups within the portfolio of EIT RawMaterials and what they can facilitate to put you in contact within the network. For that, I'm going to call the Marketing and Finance Officer, Fongday Nestler, to present you with this part.
Hello? Hello? Is it on? Yeah, okay. So thank you. I'm very honored to be here and have the opportunity to present you Open Innovation Services, which is really my passion. So I hope I can inspire you. Let's have a look what open innovation means. And I'm not going to lecture you. I think you have a very good idea. It's been very hyped, but I just want to focus on what we are looking at. So open innovation programs allow companies to find new ways to find products and services. And we had this yesterday in the roundtable to accelerate innovation into the market. And by generating process improvements, companies can reduce costs and they find new opportunities to create revenue streams and thus ultimately generate return on investment. And we see also that companies that are using open innovation clearly stand out from competition. So this is an advantage. And EIT RawMaterials, our open innovation services aim for external open innovation.
I'm just going to tell you to remove the badge because
Oh, sorry. The noise.
The noise, sorry for that.
Actually,
Oh, maybe I will just
let's just plug that.
work here very fast. So
It's very sensible. That's better.
Yeah.
Much better, thank you. So I think just have to go back. So as I said, we at EIT RawMaterials, we focus on open innovation that aim for collaboration with externals, because you can also have open innovation programs with employees or with research, but we really focus on the connection between corporates and startups. Why do we do this? And why are we ideally placed to offer open innovation services? It's not new for us because we are building here on our strength. As Michel has just introduced, we have a very large network on the one side from our startup community. We've supported more than 200 startups in the past 3 years, and those startups are now reaching the right maturity level. They're looking for opportunities to pilot their solutions, to find real customers, and this is where we want to connect them to the corporate world. And on the other hand, we have this network of partners, 300 partners, plus now with ERMA more, so around 500 partners. So this is the access to market that we can provide to the startups. And this combined with our own technical and market intelligence we have developed tailor-made open innovation services now for partners, but also outside our partner network. Now, we have experienced that some companies find open innovation campaigns intimidating. Why is this? Because they can be seen as complex, and also they fear that it will tie up too many resources, financially and human resources. And in some companies, the innovation efforts are siloed within the research labs. Mainly in our big industrial companies, they have a lot of research, but they fail to embed it at an organization level. So this is where we believe that to meet this challenge, companies can use our knowledge and our expert communities to apply this concept. So we streamline this process for your business, and we facilitate and accelerate this innovation process. So to have a closer look at our service portfolio, I would just mention 3 concepts. One is the corporate challenge. Secondly, the startup scouting service that we provide, and the hackathon. So let's have a look what we mean with this. Corporate challenges are a compelling way to generate new ideas and to explore innovations. So the aim is to connect corporates with the innovation power of startups. So in other words, it is really the best of both worlds. We match the innovation power and the know-how and the resources of corporates. And maybe our uniqueness is the clear focus on raw materials, and therefore we are able to run pan-European startup challenges. To give you, unfortunately you cannot see the full picture, so this is an illustration of a typical process, project with different phases, and we manage the whole process if you want, but it's all tailor-made. So we can do the campaign management throughout the communication, dissemination, and also manage the innovation scouting with our experts. And in another stage, what we usually do is once we have pre-selected the best teams, we monitor and coach them to be really fit for the customer's challenge. So maybe it is easier to understand if I illustrate it with an example. We I would like to highlight the project that we managed for Eramet. You've heard it maybe, the leading mining company in Europe. So maybe let's go back. Eramet is one of our core partners, and the challenge is the fruit of our very long cooperation. And the motivation behind was that the group wanted to extend their network to startups and SMEs. So that was our mission. And the thematic scope in last year's challenge was real-time monitoring. So they were looking for solutions in the area of digital solutions for efficient real-time monitoring in various applications of their business. And so we developed this challenge for Eramet, which was launched in July last year. And it was a real success. So this was the number of applications that we received on the spot, let's say. And going from a very deep analysis of the applications, we selected always the best to go to the next step. And then they were challenged by the experts of Eramet to be really the top 10 teams that respond, of course, to Eramet's scope defined use cases. And those teams were invited to pitch. And you can imagine last year it was an online event, but still it was very inspiring. And the teams had the possibility So that is the value of it. The startups had the possibility to validate their solution, so they could really see the proof of their solution. And going from there, Eramet selected 3 finalists. The companies, it's hard to read, it's Mekorat, About, and Sysprop, 3 of the startups that actually we already supported through our booster programs. And the winner of the competition is a startup that is called Sysprop, and they have developed a solution for the stability of mine tailings, and this is completely in line with the corporate strategy for corporate social responsibility. So that was a really good fit. And so the winner, what's in for the startups, they receive a collaboration contract with the industrial partner to develop a real project for a certain time, and then of course they receive the fund, but also they have the possibility to enter into a long-term collaboration. And based on this very good success, we launched a new edition of the Eramet Challenge this year that is focused on responsible mining, because it is a subject that is very important to Eramet. And so together we defined the main key areas that startups have to address. And so we came up with the list of these 5: environmentally friendly exploration, water and waste management, safety at mining sites, mine rehabilitation and biodiversity, very interesting, and of course traceability of raw materials. And we've just closed the application, and we were very happy to receive more than 100 applications. You can see that it's now really scaling up. And now we enter into this very important process of selecting and then mentoring the startups to go further. So let's move on to our second open innovation concept that we deliver to corporates, that is called Startup Scouting. So what does it mean? With Startup Scouting, we are engaging startups to respond to industry needs. It's similar to the challenge, but the aim here is really to establish partnerships. So typically, the partnership would be around developing new business applications for the corporate, and sharing this benefit for both parties. So the example I would like to highlight here is our customer Veolia Germany, Veolia, if you say. And this goes back to also a very long cooperation that we have with Veolia. Veolia is, of course, a leader in waste treatment, and together with Veolia, we have created and co-created an initiative that is called YouStart, and that launches annually calls to find the best applications in the area of circular economy, with specific demands. Every time we defined the recycling or a focus on maybe batteries. So every time there's a new challenge, and so we launch a call, and it's the experts that decide afterwards. It's not a prize in the end, but it's the business units of Veolia that scout for the startups, and then they develop a project and a partnership with the startups. So it's very, we had yesterday Aqua in Silico presenting with that, also collaborating with Veolia. It's a great opportunity for startups. Now let me just briefly touch the third service in our portfolio, which is the hackathons. I think it's clear what hackathons are. It's a way to conceptualize and to drive tangible results very fast and to address a highly complex solution. And what is different here is that hackathon typically gather diverse stakeholders and parties to really bring together all the different competences, but also to create out-of-the-box creative thinking, which normally, if you always ask developers, they would always see the same side. But if you bring in, for example, a graphic designer or someone from completely a different area, this will enrich the creativity. And so we facilitate this by organizing and running hackathon workshops, and also by leading the brainstorming and coordinate all the different ideas. We had a very nice project together with our partner Sandvik, who is a mining equipment manufacturer. And so we organized a hackathon that was called Hack the Rock, because it was based around proving the feasibility of one of their rock engines. And so we organized a 2 days hackathon around this, but it doesn't necessarily has to be a full weekend. It can also be a shorter idea challenge practice. So everything can be really tailor-made to your individual needs. So to sum this up, I would just like to say that leading enterprises innovate with EIT RawMaterials and open innovations is just one way for us to create and to accelerate innovation. I invite you to have a look at our website, where we present in more detail our services and the cases, and I'm really happy to take on your questions.
Thank you so much, Fong, for your intervention. We would now open for questions.
So thank you very much for your presentation. Actually, we at BGI also provide some open innovation services for corporates. And I have a question regarding your first activity, the Corporate Challenge. So what we feel in BGI, it's crucial and it's very important that one of the aspects of this open innovation project is to capacitate and give the tools to the people who are working in the corporate to be able to help the startup. As Gonçalo is saying, sometimes it's very critical because the ways of working and the ways of thinking of people that are working in corporates are not very close to the way of working and thinking of a startup. So it's important to connect both worlds. So this actually, it's two questions. So first of all, if you feel the same, I would say, pain point when dealing open innovation service, and if so, what kind of activities of, if you have like trained the mentors of the corporates, if it's one of your activities when you are dealing with a challenge, corporate challenge, your activity?
Thank you, Patricia. I completely agree. So I think we have the same pain points from the experience with our partners, and you have to know that some of our industrial partners are global players, but they are heavy, big companies in steel and in mining, so they are not necessarily already into open innovation. It's not like with Facebook and all these digital young companies, so there's a lot of training or a lot of education, and on the partner side, how do we help the partners? It's by constantly presenting this topic that is really important to us at our matchmaking events, at the summit. It is one of our strategic pillars now on the service that we want to provide, because we see that it is important also really to generate more innovation. I think it's just a common effort of constantly telling the story and saying that it's a win-win.
If I can add, effectively, this is the enormous challenge. But we have seen, coming from this kind of events, effectively good wishes to collaborate between a very small company and a very large one. And what we also can do is effectively, because we have all these services about innovation projects, they can come with a project. And when entering into these ones, then we have our own people that can follow up and a bit see if things are going the right side, the wrong side. But we have not to dream. For a startup working with a large organization, it's complete different speed, complete different mass, complete different views on the strategies, and sometimes it's really complicated to align those two things. In the world, in our raw materials world, this industry, we should say, is from the 19th century. We speak about mining. It's not the super high, deep tech bio or software development, intelligence, and so on. That's for sure. What we do with these large companies is effectively via these things to give them an access to other ways to make their own R&D. Otherwise, and that's what they say, they are closed in their own environment. From my past experience, and this is something that happened, that is now happening in this world, that's why we speak about this, because it's a bit new for this industry to work by this way. They have R&Ds, they do R&Ds inside. I remember it's, I would say, beginning of the century, about the year 2000, I was mainly working in the innovation, but with the pharmaceutical sector. There were huge R&Ds services inside those companies with huge investments, and we have seen the shift, because now they do not do this way anymore. They scouts for effectively bright ideas, molecules, whatever, and it's another way to do the things. But that is what is happening, and of course, as a startup, you can adapt easily to this one. That is what we want to try to set up here with the sector of raw materials or processing of materials. And we see that effectively the collaboration works. Sometimes it fails. We have not to dream that everything is a beautiful sky. Sometimes it fails, sometimes it works, sometimes they diverse. One is going one way, the other one another way, of course, but we see that effectively this is a good win-win. And in our sector, this is something to be learned.
Thank you
One
very much.
additional comment. I think we have the advantage that a lot of companies in our sector have a pressing need. So they see they have to innovate to achieve, for example, the decarbonization goals. And this is really the moment where they see we have to open up. We have to really get ideas from the outside world.
I have a comment and a question. So first of all, I think your presentation was fantastic, because in open innovation you really touched kind of three models, which are the pillars, the fundamental pillars, as Henry Chesborough, disciple of Clayton Christensen, theorized it. So well done on that. So I think you also have, as Michel was saying, for old industries, when we talk about old industries, century old, which they have their ways of doing things, the role you can play there is absolutely paramount, because they have typically a certain way they do things, and they need to shift to new paradigms, new digital solutions, new business models, much more sustainable business models in a way. And I think your slide that showed the 5 areas of this call, including biodiversity and so on, maybe you could go back to it, because what we see, for instance, in Portugal, is that a lot of technology has been developed, for instance, for waste and water treatments for different industries, for minerals, for industrial sites and chemicals and so on. And we had João here from one of the largest chemical producers of phosphorus and so on, related materials. So I think in these areas, we can look at Portugal and try to find a lot of even blockchain, for instance, is traceability of raw materials. We know that there's a lot of sometimes of adulteration. For instance, we have a project in blockchain in rice, which is the worst case scenario. So I think these areas is. So my question was, when you mentioned 100 applicants in this call, where did these applicants come from? Was it mostly kind of Central Europe? Was it, maybe you could give us some ideas there.
Thank you. Yeah, I forgot to mention. So we have a focus on Europe from our own startup community, but we have actually received applications from all over the world, and that was really amazing. So the call was spread to Africa, to Canada. We had applications from Australia, of course, because they are very strong in the mining business. And the challenge is that to bring these technology providers to Europe and profit from their innovation, but also from their experience. And I think a good example, what you just said, was also blockchain and marketplace. Some of these applications are not, we're not looking at a mining application, but sometimes and this is very the power of startups, I think, to adapt so quickly to the demands that they say, okay, we can take our solution and we take on your challenge and we develop something for you. So
maybe another question, and then I pass on the word. You, Adriel, you have one. So in terms of LCA, when you talk to these mining companies, Michel, and you kind of try to see what the pains are, because regulatory affairs will change. The European Commission is kind of, I mean, I worked in the cement industry before many years, and other really heavy emitters of CO2, and it's an issue. So there's a big push, a big pressure to reduce the biogenic carbon intake in the, anyways. So do you see these corporates concerned with, for instance, LCA? So in other words, they want to facelift how they're seen by society, from a polluting industry to maybe a carbon neutral company, if they can. For instance, we have one big mine here in Lisbon. Setúbal is one of the biggest cement producers in one of the most beautiful areas in the country, which is a protected area and so on. And I worked with the CEO of this company, Pedro Queiroz Pereira, and said, one day this will be a luxury resort, because this will have to be transformed from a mine to a biodiverse space. So I think there's opportunities here for you. But do you see these companies really willing to, concerned about how they are perceived? And the LCA, for instance, for them is something you could offer as a service?
Yeah, effectively, it's a concern for those companies, for those large companies as well. So they have this difficulty, what we call so this social license to operate. And if we speak about mining, everybody is always looking to the dust, gray, dark pollution. It's no more that. We also have to know that the things have changed, of course. But in Europe, it's still very complicated. So they use effectively the different possibilities to make it, and we do provide effectively LCAs. We also have nice projects actually with startups and small companies that are developing LCAs, technologies, tools, and so on, working together on these things. We also try to set up a kind of standard, particularly on the rare earths, actually, materials, to set up effectively this kind of standards that can be used by the industry. And then of course the blockchain, all these technologies are under development. But that is, it's also something that some of the companies ask us, can we do something to support effectively these European companies to have an acceptance of it? And that's why we also go to the schools, just to explain all these things.
Good morning. About these 3 and 4 points there, safety on mining sites and for mining rehabilitation biodiversity. Last month I was, Vale do Rio Doce called me to talk about some problems they have with the iron mining over there in Brazil. And we know that they have already a lot, like more than 20 mines spread around the world that can be another Mariana or Brumadinho catastrophes if they don't do anything. And can you make us get a connection with them? Because we really started a project to use mycelium for mining recovering for this iron residues management. So we need to enter and access and compete for that, or you can also make contacts directly with the mining sector so they can we can provide a service to them to start to clean that. We have a paper from an Indian university, I don't remember which one it is, but using those to recover the alslamas. I don't remember the name. Yeah, the sludge from that. And they can't remove that forever all the space, and they can't do anything, but they got really interesting results using mycorrhizal and some, plants and fungi to try to do that. And I don't know if is this open, we can make contacts to that, or only applying to this?
No. Well, sorry.
Go ahead.
This is one example of how we can make effectively matchmaking between a larger company and startups. This is coming from a demand from the companies. That is, we as a network, EIT RawMaterials, we are effectively having a community and trying to match to make the contacts. So I will not enter into this particular case, but the best is to address us, to send us a mail to explain what is your challenge or what you are looking for, and then we can see whether or not you could fit in one of the programs that we have. Because we have programs for startups, the programs that allow us to match, to look for markets. I mean, there are different possibilities. So well, I cannot answer, yes, of course we can do, I cannot do this, but we have these services.
Okay, thank you.
In addition to connecting you to interested partners, you can also apply then for a project if you want to upscale it together with a partner. So this is the interesting side. All right, any more questions? Thank you.
All right, so this will mark the end of all the sessions. First of all, I would really like to thank for the entire team of EIT RawMaterials who decided to come to Portugal to listen what the ecosystem has to say, to offer many opportunities and possibilities. And that is amazing. That is precisely what Portugal needs for us to continue trying to be one of the next innovation hubs. We are trying to get there with web summits and so many other initiatives we are having, but we definitely need this attention and support, so this is absolutely crucial. So for that, I still want to say to everyone that this event was fully recorded. You have the possibility to go back, watch each session. BGI will have the description in time of every session with the speaker, and that was the talk about, so you can go there and organize, check it again. Most importantly, there is the matchmaking platform. There are several people watching us online. Please do use the matchmaking platform, or do use BGI to connect you with others that you saw here at the event or that you listen at the event. We can facilitate those meetings very easily. For those who are here, we are now going for a coffee break. This will mark the end of this part of the event, the live streaming. However, here we can continue after this on the B2b meetings. I know that some of the people who are here want to meet specifically with the team of EIT RawMaterials. We will have a dedicated room for that, and you can ask Beatrice. She will support you finding the room that has several tables set just for you to have those meetings. If you want to have those the meetings online, there's also a possibility. You have the internet of this place, and for you that are at home, very easily. And most of all, what I want to say is that this is a great possibility for the startups. We could check that there is the possibility of not only getting investment, but also having easier access to corporates, which are typically the guys that that the startups are looking for to sell. Most of them are B2B. This is a great opportunity. So all in all, I just want to thank everyone that was with us during these 2 entire days. And Michel, if you still want to say something, I'll pass to you.
I don't know if this this mic is working, but effectively, I would like to thank you, Sophie and BGI, for the organization of this event. It was really an excellent event for us, also for our own awareness, I would say, about what we can do. I would like really to thank you for the excellent organization of the events, and looking forward effectively to go for further collaborations with each of you who would be interested in this exciting sector. Thank you very much for this.